Welcome, dear listeners, to our episode of Eli EdTalks, the podcast where we explore the latest trends and innovations that are shaping the future of education and L&D. I am your host, Inna, a learning strategist at Eli, and today joining our conversation is Olga Filipova, a software engineer, founder of Workademy, published author, and education lover. Today, we dive into the future of LMS and also tackle the challenges of SCORM and discuss emerging trends like VR, AR, adaptive algorithms, and AI-driven personalized learning, questioning their potential versus bad status and their profound impact on training effectiveness. Hi, Ola. I'm very happy to see you here.
Hi, Ina. Hi, everyone. Super happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for coming here. So we're going to have a lot of topics. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have enough time for everything. But let us start from rapid fire questions. This is the same set of questions that we ask each and our speaker of ours. And at the end of the season, we summarize their answers. So first things first, what book or resource can you recommend on L&D or education topics?
I can recommend my favorite author. It doesn't have to do a lot with L&D. It's Brian Tracy. He wrote books like Focal Point, Psychology of Selling, $1 Million Habits, The Art of Closing Sales, and he is great. And the interesting part that in every his book, every advice that he gives ends up with lifelong learning. He recommends to any specialist, any person who wants to sell better, to strive better, to be more productive, to be more efficient, to always keep learning. This is why, although his books are not directly attached to L&D, but it's very inspiring from those who believe in lifelong learning. And when it comes to specific L&D resources, I highly recommend L&D Shakers community, and please check their latest L&D strategy cookbook. This is a cookbook where all kinds of resources are gathered that help you to go through your L&D strategy from scratch to until it's fully done.
Perfect. Yeah, it's actually the second time I'm hearing this recommendation. So yeah, stars aligned. And we are going to leave all the links in the comments below and on the QR code for those of you who are watching the recording. Who do you recommend to follow and invite to this podcast?
Josh Berzin, this is the star of of L&D, HR tech, ed tech. He has his own academy, and he's kind of influencer on LinkedIn. So please, if you can contact Josh and invite him, it would be great. He's great to listen to, and he has a big expertise worth sharing with your audience. Also, Ross Stevenson, the founder of Steal Those Thoughts resource. He is also super great. So follow him on LinkedIn. He posts almost every day, and it's always very short, but very profound piece of wisdom. So yeah, please do.
I'm a huge fan, super up to the point, really great content creator. And yeah, so stay tuned because we are going to invite him to the podcast actually. Okay, so could you share, if you're comfortable, a memorable failure or setback in your L&D journey and how did you overcome it?
Well, as a founder of an edtech startup, I always have these ups and downs. So failures all the time, because we talk to potential customers who say no, we talk to investors who say no. So at some point, you just get used to it, and you transform this kind of negative experience into learning experiences. And you say, okay, you said no, which means that I learned how not to do it or how not to tell something. But maybe the very first one was when we started Workademy. We still have been working on our full-time jobs. And at some point I said, enough, because while I'm on my well-paid full-time job, I will not dedicate all my power and resources into Workademy. So I have to leave the job and go all in. So I left my job. I ordered a bunch of visit cards, and I thought, okay, now I will start going to all the events in Berlin, all the L&D learning, e-learning, whatever, EdTech events, and I will show my face. I will give visit cards, and people get to know Workademy, people get to know me. And my visit cards arrived on the evening before the day when full lockdown started because of COVID.
No! Oh my God.
Yeah, that was like the super fail, but it was so funny because we were looking at those visit cards. Gosh, they're so beautiful. Now we can look at them every day while being closed in this apartment. Awesome.
Yeah, and I imagine now you're saying this with a smile, but that time
Yeah.
it wasn't that funny. Okay, so if you had to give just one piece of advice for someone just starting their career in L&D, what would that be?
I think the most valuable advice is being curious, and as my Brian Tracy says, always learn, keep learning, and yeah, there is nothing bad in not knowing something.
Mhm.
The bad is when you are not willing to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel that applies to many professions.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last rapid fire question, what question must be asked at a job interview for L&D specialist?
And now I come again to this topic of lifelong learning. I think if I would hire L&D specialist, the first thing I would ask, like, what was the last book, last podcast, or last course that you've done, listened to, or read regarding L&D?
Mhm.
And yeah, if I see that they say, I didn't read anything or I didn't listen to anything, then it's very suspicious, right? Because the
Mhm.
person who is supposed to create a learning culture for your team, and if this person doesn't learn herself or himself, it's strange.
Yeah, surely. Okay, so coming back to the main agenda of today's conversation, let's start with your LMS topics. So, in a nutshell, in one sentence, how do you see the role of LMS platforms evolving in the future? So, where are we going?
In one sentence, right?
It could be couple.
Yeah, but yeah, I can say it in one sentence. I see that we are going from content creation to more curation and moderation,
Mhm.
because creating content today is not the same as creating content yesterday.
Yeah. That's perfectly in a nutshell, but I know what you mean. We talk so much that less content, more deeper understanding, right? So that's a really huge topic to discuss. But speaking of LMS a little bit more, I've worked in several organizations and many employees were not satisfied with them. And a lot of times the issue with LMS platforms was not LMS itself, but the way L&D specialists operated with them because of, let's say, lack of communication between LMS providers and the L&D specialists. For instance, just some features were off. For example, gamification and badges and everything like that. So what you could use to pump up your platform, you didn't because of some issues. So could you share some examples of innovative approaches that can be done in LMS, but maybe we don't know or we utilize them wrong? So how do you see, from your perspective, this topic?
Yeah, I think that some functionalities are like overkilling, like some
Mhm.
super extra gamification things. We should start from simplicity, and a lot of LMSs already offer simple but yet powerful interfaces
Mhm.
that allow like editing your courses inline. It seems like inline editing, so what? But if we look several years ago, we would have to use different interfaces to build training and to visualize them. And if you see the time that we spent like moving the content from the creator thing to the visualization thing, it's a lot of time. And now a lot of LMSs have built in what you see is what you get editor, but not everyone knows this. For example, I know several companies that have been using one big LMS, and then they were not liking some specific thing, and they were talking to us, and I would show our what you see is what you get editor, and they were like, oh my god, you have authoring tool, and yeah, but that one as well. And they didn't know, just because it never occurred to them that this can be true. So they would use some articulate storyline, create a SCORM file, and then upload it to this LMS, although it already had embedded creation tools. So I think we shouldn't go in something very, very complex and very like AI, VR, whatever things that we will talk about for sure, but offer just simple interfaces for course editing. It's already a game changer.
Yeah, does this mean that this way we involve subject matter experts more?
Yes, yes, for sure, because you can give them these interfaces and ask them to edit courses. So the things like collaborative creation
Mhm.
are also very powerful. And
Mhm.
from the technical perspective, it's not that easy to build. And so the LMSs who have it, well, it's very good. It's very powerful feature because allows several people to work at the same time. So for example, subject matter expert can put their knowledge in, then the Methodist people, instructional designers can cut it out. Yeah, because I know that was usually happens with content that SMEs put in. It has to be a little bit cut out, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all think that the more content, the more information is better. But how do you tackle then the engagement issue, right? That we always think that the more complex is the course, that there should be storytelling and gamification included, and it should have like adaptive learning path or something, from this area. So how do you tackle the engagement issue in this respect?
Yeah, I think that engagement, especially in the workplace, it's not necessarily some flying pink unicorns or AI chatbots or anything. I think that engagement in corporate environment is when you learn something that you can immediately apply to your job, and this is what defines the learning being engaging. And here, it's not the quantity, it's more how well learning outcomes are attached to business goals and to business objectives. And then when it makes a perfect match, a person learns and then can apply it and sees the result of her or his work affecting the company, affecting business. It's very powerful. It's very motivating. And when they see these results, they don't even need that there are some badges appearing. Although of course it's nice visually, it's very nice when you have some badges, when you have your learner profile, but when you can actually apply and see the results, I think that the most powerful thing.
It certainly depends on the organization and target audience, but in most cases, what's the initial goal of corporate learning, right? It's that employees can manage to do their job efficiently, right?
Yeah.
That's the initial goal most of the times. Okay, so we are slowly actually coming to, I've heard articulate, so we are talking about SCORM files, so let's tackle this topic a bit more. Well, as an L&D specialist, you are not sure exactly what is SCORM, right? So this is just a button that you press export as SCORM file, and there are some other files, for example, XAPI, but you're not exactly sure what do they mean, and you download it, then you upload it to your LMS, and then you think some magic happens. So from your perspective as a software engineer, how do you see SCORM files? What are the challenges and limitations? Because while we were in the prep stage of this conversation, there were some articles, something like, is SCORM dead? Which is a bit of a, it's a bit stretched. However, more and more people talk about challenges and limitations of this file format. So what's your perspective?
When I first saw SCORM, it was already 20 years old. So it's like more than 2 decades old. And when it comes to software development and advancements, it's like using Windows 3.11 in the current environment. First of all, it doesn't fit. So from technology perspective, it's not compatible anymore, although its primary goal was interoperability and compatibility. But because it was built with the technologies of 2 decades ago, it's super cumbersome. It's very heavy when it comes to something that is being transported through internet. It has inside, it's a zip file. And if you unzip it, you see a bunch of files. And you see a bunch of files with different extensions. So it's a mix of technologies that some of them are already almost dead. This is why it's very dangerous that we have a lot of systems that still rely on SCORM. If we draw a parallel between industries and technologies, it's like, for example, in banks, the bank software was written in COBOL, which is a very, very old programming language, which is almost dead. It's very hard to go away from it because there are not so many COBOL programmers anymore. Also, to understand that monster, it's very hard, and if you do something wrong, then the whole bank might fall. So this is what is going on with SCORM, because a lot of systems rely on it. It's not very easy to remove it, but it becomes harder and harder to support it. And if you look at some courses developed in SCORM, some of them look like web in 2000, so they're very not modern, have a lot of colors, a lot of things, and nowadays the design that we are used to it's more clean, right? We are not used to see a lot of things on the screens. We want to be cleaner, to be nicer, and it's not compliant anymore, even from the visual perspective.
Yeah, the way I see it, the market certainly shifts, because a couple of years ago, in job advertisements, you would see titles like articulate developer or something like this. Yeah, right now you won't see it anymore. You would need an instructional designer for developing learning material, but in requirements they might say we need someone who is good at articulate. However, that's not the main goal, right? And that's really interesting to see, because a lot of people actually base their careers on this instrument. So I think it's a little bit dangerous to rely on just one format. However, from the perspective of L&D, I realize that why people use articulate, let's say, well, they know it. The learner knows it, right? It's easy and fast. Let's say when we talk about RISE courses. When we talk about storyline, it's really expensive and quite long to make a proper product. So I see why it's so long to shift from SCORM files and from articulate. However, I think it's happening in one way or another. But it's also bringing us to a whole other direction, that why L&D adapts technology slightly slower than the other industries, but that's a whole other topic. But speaking of SCORM files, are there any alternatives? So what approach can L&D take if they choose to refuse from SCORM?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have to understand why do you use SCORM, because if you use it to create and then export and then import, then just don't do it, because most of the LMSs now have the creation part. Yeah, it will not be like this a lot of I call articulate storyline the PowerPoint on steroids. Probably you will not have this in traditional LMSs, but you have enough formats to create content that is enough to achieve learning objectives. You have web-based text, you have videos, images. If you want some powerful videos, you can use LI and then put LI videos into your LMSs. So you don't need articulate to for creation because you have already creation tools, authoring tools inside LMSs. However, there are some situations where you cannot run away from SCORM. And this is when you buy content, ready content from third-party providers. Then they sell it in SCORM, and yeah, there is not so many ways to run away and not so many alternatives. Of course, there are this XAPI you told, TinCan, which is also, which is the same. There is another one, AICC, whatever, but it's even older than SCORM. I think it's one was created for aviation industry. So
LinkedIn Learning uses it actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but they are all kind of the same when it comes to like cumbersomeness and being old. I envision that I hope that we will be shifting to something where you can create your content on an LMS and then export it in a very lightweight modern format like JSON, for example, and then have some patches to import it to other LMSs. So interoperability happens between LMSs and not there is some one entity who created SCORM and they talk to authoring tools and to LMSs. I hope that someday we will shift to something where LMSs will be able to talk with each other. And then we will just put the content in lightweight format, and it will like occupy specific placeholders for questions, because this is the problem of SCORM that we haven't yet addressed, the analytics part. Because there are, in most parts of interaction, it's kind of black box, and it's very difficult to get all the interactions that happened from SCORM and injected into the LMS analytics. Meaning that L&D managers can see, okay, people started course, people finished course. Maybe they can see some great, but they don't see everything that happens, what they answered to what, how many wrong attempts, etc., because this is very hard to extract from SCORM. And my dream would be is that whatever we extract from one LMS can be put in another with all the like analytics and everything, but in a lightweight format.
Yeah, it's definitely a long journey, because I also realized that it's hard to comprehend how many SCORM files, how many created on RISE, easy generator, whatever. Let's say an enterprise multinational company has. It would be so much harder to transfer all of their learning materials to any other solution. So it's definitely a long journey, but hey, why not? The results should be worth it, right? Okay, so speaking of trends, right? So speaking of future, let's cover this topic a little bit more. We've got in our agenda several trends/fads, we don't know yet. And let's start from VR, AR. Couple of years ago, it was booming. Not even a couple, just like 2 years ago, every second LinkedIn post was about VR, AR. Right now, it's quiet. And to tell you the truth, I haven't seen very reliable use cases of its utilization. So the idea is fantastic, life-changing, right? But we are not sure if was that a fact. So you don't know for sure from your perspective as a software engineer. Is it coming, or it's hard to say? Where are we now?
Well, I think that that would be very awesome to learn being immersed into an environment. However, it's still a very expensive technology,
Mhm.
which means that for companies to adopt it, they would have to spend a lot of money without really knowing the outcomes. So I think we still have some years to come until this technology becomes affordable that can be used
Mhm.
in a workspace environment just by any company and not only multi-millionaires
Yeah.
enterprises. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I've heard of thought that VR AR is so expensive because a human had to write all the context and all the setup and everything, but now with AI, it's
Yeah, the
much
mix.
faster.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Okay, what about AI and personalized adaptive learning? So, in what ways can they transform the learning experience?
I think that AI, I think no, I definitely know that AI is changing the industry a lot. The generative AI, which has been the most used, right, to generate content, is a game changer
Mhm.
because it shifts even the L&D function from content creation to some superior role of being a business partner, of being a strategist, of being a planner, and you can now focus on planning and strategy while the whole outlines and content can be created by AI, but you even can develop strategies. You can
Mhm.
feed AI with your data. You can ask it to help you to brainstorm on something. You can even ask it to ask you questions to help you with some planning. And it's really great because I see how sometimes L&D managers are stuck with creating content and doing some small tasks, manual tasks that could be easily delegated to AI. And this is definitely a game changer, which also means game changing for technologies. So technologies nowadays have to focus themselves on personalization, on collaboration, on being able to like pack this content that is being created by integrated AI tools to make it nice and maybe to, because it's so easy now to generate content, how can we be sure that people will not abuse it and not to feed employees and teams with even more content that is needed? So I think that it's very important for tools like LMSs to become like guardians of content quality and quantity, and also guide people through the standards and all the magic of didactical mechanisms, like with suggestions like, hey, maybe 5 pages of small font text, it's not good for learning experience or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, so yeah, being kind of like an instructional designer and guiding people, content creators through the perfect experience for the
Mhm.
learners.
Yeah, in the end, it all shifts to our ability to operate words, right?
Yeah,
Once you mentioned to me that, what's the actual, coming back to the SCORM file, right? So articulate course or easy generate or any other, is it really beneficial for the employee or for the learner if we just shift 5 pages manual into the some interaction like tabs and maybe drag and drop and maybe hotspots picture, but is it actually giving the learning value?
yeah,
So AI could technically do that for you if you teach it, right? If you are able to use it. However, you are still the person in between, right? So it still depends on how you are able to operate with AI and with an instructional material and with the tools. So you have to do everything basically. You have to be super versatile.
yeah.
And yeah, please.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that these are great news because this means that L&D job will always be needed.
Mhm. There are some concerns, am I right, that AI will take our jobs and things like that?
I
How?
don't be-
Yeah, not in this area probably. So, thanks God. Okay, so that seems like a great way to summarize and very optimistic way to summarize our conversation today. Thank you, Olga, so much for providing your view on such topics as LMS evolution, SCORM alternatives, and EdTech trends that are going to shape the L&D world. If you found any value in today's discussion, our dear listeners, remember to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay connected for the future dialogues on evolving educational landscape. This is Inna, bidding farewell from Eli EdTalks. Until the next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.